April 8. Dear Madam Varvara Alexeyevna, yes, dear friend, yes, my own, it seems it was a bad day for poor luckless me. Yes, you mocked at an old man like me, Varvara Alexeyevna. It was my fault, though, entirely my fault. I ought not, in my old age, with scarcely any hair on my head, to have launched out into lyrical nonsense and fine phrases. And I will say more, my dear. Man is sometimes a strange creature, very strange. My goodness, he begins talking of something and is carried away directly. And what comes of it? What does it lead to? Why, absolutely nothing comes of it, and it leads to such nonsense that... Lord preserve me, I am not angry, Varenka dear, only I am very much vexed to remember it all, vexed that I wrote to you in such a foolish, high-flown way. And I went to the office today so cock-a-hoop. There was such a radiance in my heart. For no rhyme or reason, there was a regular holiday in my soul. I felt so gay. I took up my papers eagerly, but what did it all amount to? As soon as I looked about me, everything was as before, gray and dingy. Still the same ink spots, the same tables and papers, and I, too, was just the same. As I always have been, so I was still. So what reason was there to mount upon Pegasus? And what was it all due to? The sun peeping out and the sky growing blue. Was that it? And how could I talk of the sense of spring, when you never know what there may be in our yard under other windows? I suppose I fancied all that in my foolishness. You know, a man does sometimes make such mistakes in his own feelings and writes nonsense. That is due to nothing but foolish, excessive warmth of heart. I did not walk, but crawled home. For no particular reason, my head had begun to ache. Well, that, to be sure, was one thing on top of the other. I suppose I got a chill to my spine. I was so delighted with the spring, like a fool, that I went out in a thin greatcoat. And you were mistaken in my feelings, my dear. You took my outpouring of them quite in the wrong way. I was inspired by fatherly affection, nothing but a pure fatherly affection, Varvara Alexeyevna. For I take the place of a father to you, in your sad, fatherless and motherless state. I say this from my soul, from a pure heart as a relation. After all, though I am but a distant relation, as the proverb says, only the seventh water on the jelly, still I am a relation, and now your nearest relation and protector. Seeing that where you had most right to look for protection and support, you have met with insult and treachery. As for verses, let me tell you, my love, it would not be seemly for me in my old age to be making verses. Poetry is nonsense. Why, boys are thrashed at school nowadays for making poetry, so that is how it is, my dear. What are you writing to me, Varvara Alexeyevna, about comfort, about quiet, and all sorts of things? I am not particular, my dear soul. I am not exacting. I have never lived better than I am doing now, so why should I be hard to please in my old age? I am well fed and clothed and shod, and it is not for us to indulge our whims. We are not royalties. My father was not of noble rank, and his income was less than mine for his whole family. I have not lived in the lap of luxury. However, if I must tell the truth, everything was a good deal better in my old lodging. It was more roomy and convenient, dear friend. Of course, my present lodging is nice, even in some respects more cheerful and more varied, if you like. I have nothing to say against that, but yet I regret the old one. We old, that is, elderly people, get used to old things as though to something akin to use. The room was a little one, you know. The walls were... Oh, there, what is the use of talking? The walls were like all other walls, they don't matter. And yet remembering all my past makes me depressed. It's a strange thing. It's painful, yet the memories are, as it were, pleasant. Even what was nasty, what I was vexed with at the time, is, as it were, purified from nastiness in my memory and presents itself in an attractive shape to my imagination. We lived peacefully, Varenka, I and my old landlady who is dead. I remember my old landlady with a sad feeling now. She was a good woman and did not charge me much for my lodging. She used to knit all sorts of rugs out of rags on needles a yard long. She used to do nothing else. We used to share light and fuel, so we worked at one table. She had a granddaughter, Masha. I remember her quite a little thing. Now she must be a girl of 13. She was such a mischievous little thing, very merry, always kept us amused, and we lived together, the three of us. Sometimes in the long winter evenings we would sit down to the round table, drink a cup of tea, and then set to work. And to keep Masha amused and out of mischief, the old lady used to begin to tell tales. And what tales they were! A sensible, intelligent man would listen to them with pleasure, let alone a child. Why, I used to light my pipe and be so interested that I forgot my work. And the child, our little mischief, would be so grave. She would lean her rosy cheek on her little hand, open her pretty little mouth, and, if the story were the least bit terrible, she would huddle up to the old woman. And we liked to look at her, and did not notice how the candle wanted snuffing, nor hear the wind roaring and the storm raging outside. We had a happy life, Varenka, and we lived together for almost 20 years. But how I have been prattling on! Perhaps you don't care for such a subject, and it is not very cheering for me to remember it, especially just now in the twilight. Teresa's busy about something. My head aches, and my back aches a little too, and my thoughts are so queer, they seem to be aching as well. I am sad today, Varenka. What's this you write, my dear? How can I come and see you? My darling, what would people say? Why, I should have to cross the yard. Our folks would notice it, would begin asking questions. There would be gossip, there would be scandal. They would put the wrong construction on it. No, my angel, I had better see you tomorrow at the evening service. That will be more sensible and more prudent for both of us. And don't be vexed with me, my precious, for writing you such a letter. Reading it over, I see it all so incoherent. I am an old man, Varenka, and not well educated. I had no education in my youth, and now I could get nothing into my head if I began studying all over again. I am aware, Varenka, that I am no hand at writing, and I know, without anyone else pointing it out and laughing at me, that if I were to try to write something more amusing, I should only write nonsense. I saw you at your window today. I saw you let down your blind. Goodbye, goodbye, God keep you. Goodbye, Varvara Alexeyevna. Your disinterested friend, Makar Dyavushkin. P.S. I can't write satirical accounts of anyone now, my dear. I am too old, Varvara Alexeyevna, to be facetious, and I should make myself a laughing-stock. As the proverb has it, those who live in glass houses should not throw stones.